getting warm, huh? My name's Dan, and I was here in the fall, and I did survival skills, and some of you guys probably remember me.
Yeah.
Who was here in the fall? Okay, so like most of you guys were here. Okay. And so in the fall I did what's called survival skills, and we might have done probably like a little bit of fire. Did we do some fire?
Yeah, I didn't do the fire.
You didn't get to do it?
I left.
Okay.
Me too.
So survival skills, today what I'm going to do is called Stone Age skills. It's what cavemen and cavewomen, kind of skills that they use to live their lives. And it's different than survival skills. Survival skills are things that you learn in the world we live in, where we're used to living in houses and having cars and electricity and hot water. It's what we use like when those things disappear and we're like lost, or someone gets hurt and we have to solve a problem. We don't have all the right tools. We don't have our phone, or we don't have a first aid kit. So survival skills are things that we learn so we can solve problems. And Stone Age skills are what people, all your ancestors, does anyone know what an ancestor is? Yeah. Yeah, all your family members, like your great, great, great grandmas and grandpas, 99.9% of them use the skills I'm going to show you guys today. So these are things that they learned from living outdoors and in nature to live their life so they could be warm and comfortable and well fed. So one of the first things I want to show you guys is fire. What do you guys think life was like? So we didn't even invent fire. Did you guys know that? So human beings, there's another species of human beings before us that came, and they invented fire, and we didn't even come around until after them, and we got it from them. We improved on it, like we got better at making it, but we're not even the first kind of human species that made fire. But what do you think it was like when people first made fire? What do you think that gave them? Yeah. It gave them heat, yeah, so they wouldn't have been able to leave Africa if they hadn't had, you wouldn't go to Germany or Oregon or Russia if you didn't have fire, right? Yeah, what else? Yeah, so heat, warmth, what else? Light, they gave light, yeah. So also before there was fire, when the day was over, like people pretty much had to stop everything they were doing, right? So they had to stop their projects and their planning and everything. So once there was fire and there was light, people could be productive and kind of do all sorts of things all day, kind of middle of the night, get up and do things if they needed to. What else did it do? Yeah. Yeah, so this is a really big deal, guys. Maybe the most important thing that fire did for people is it made it so that our food was soft. For all animals except for people, all animals have to eat their food raw, right? So most animals have really strong jaws, and for their size, they have pretty big teeth. And if you ever look around at like animals in the wild that are kind of the same size as humans, usually their mouths are much stronger and they have bigger teeth. We have pretty small teeth for how big we are. We have pretty weak jaws because we're able to heat our food up. And what that does is it makes it so that, number one, when you're an animal, if there's like parasites or bad bacteria in the food, you have to have a really good immune system to fight that stuff off. But if you're human, you cook it, you can kind of avoid getting sick a lot easier. And the other thing is that when you soften the food and heat it up and break it down, you don't have to chew it nearly as much. And then when it goes to your stomach, you don't have to digest it nearly as much, and you get more energy out of it. So compared to animals, we get a lot more energy out of our food. Where do you think that extra energy goes for human beings that it doesn't go for animals? Guesses? Yeah. It goes to our brains, yeah. And a lot of scientists think that without fire, we would have never gotten as smart as we are. The last thing that fire did for us, can anyone guess what the last thing that fire did for us? Imagine you're going to sleep and you live in Africa because it's too cold to live in Russia, and you just ate raw food all day, and it's dark so you can't stay up because you don't have any light. What are you worried about when you go to bed? Yeah.
It's the heat, it makes a fire and can cause fire.
Well, let's say you don't have fire. What are you worried about? Yeah.
Animals.
Yeah. So before fire, human beings were like prey animals. So animals would come and eat us. They would come hunt us. So we had to climb up in trees when we went to sleep and then hope a leopard didn't come follow us up there, right? So it was really amazing. We had fire changed our whole world. So I'm going to show you a way that people used to make fire. This is called friction fire. And what we're going to do is going to rub two sticks together, and we're going to grind them into a dust. Grind the wood into a dust, and then at the same time, we're going to create some heat. And hopefully that heat will be enough to turn the dust into a coal. So we'll see how this goes. And then we're going to try and blow it into a flame as a team. All of you guys are going to try and help me out with that part. This is called a bow drill. So now what we've got is we've got a little coal. You'll see it here in a second. It's on the other side of the board. All right? And this coal, we want to kind of protect it from the wind so it doesn't burn away too fast. That coal, we're going to put it into this nest.
Is that an actual nest?
No, it's just what I call it, but it's not actually a bird's nest. It's just because I call it that because it kind of looks like one.
Because it's made of sticks.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the size of a nest. So now the coal is in here, and this is something that like I said before, like all of your family members, like all of them, like the fact that you guys don't depend on fire, that fire, you don't need fire to survive, is totally new. Like only the last like 100 or 200 years for people has that been the case. For almost all human history, people needed fire every day. So it's actually really strange that that this is new for us. Looking at this is kind of different. Almost all of your family members from the past, they would have known how to do this. At your age, they would have known how to do this. And this would have been something they did every day. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try and get this into a flame, okay? So there's two ways I can do that.
You need to have paper too.
Excuse me. So there's two ways I can do that. I can kind of move it around like this. You see how it gets smokier? Or I can blow on it. Who wants to blow this into a flame? Come on up. So you're just going to whisper on it directly on the red spot. Yeah. A little lighter. Don't blow so hard. Okay, next. Who else wants to try? Come on, red shirt. And long, not hard, not so hard. Longer breaths. Who else wants to try? Come on up. All right, it's getting hotter. Go ahead and blow on it. Does anyone else want to try? Come on up. I'll blow a little harder now. All right. Close. There we go. We got fire. You guys made fire.
Don't burn
Good
yourself.
job. All right.
How do you do that without burning yourself?
What do you think's making this go out? Why is it going out?
Because
Yeah.
it doesn't get oxygen.
Because it doesn't get oxygen. Yeah, that's right.
Back to back.
Good job raising your hand, though. That's right. So the oxygen. What are the other two things you need for fire besides oxygen? You know?
Fuel.
And what's the third thing? You need fuel, oxygen, and
Fuel?
heat. You need heat. Yeah, you need heat. That's the last thing. So I'm going to say I put this out because I want to save this for the next group. When you make fire this way, it takes a lot of work and practice. So all your ancestors knew how to do this. It takes a lot of practice to get to be able to do that. So I don't want to just burn that thing down and then have to do it all over again for the next group. So that's why I saved it like that. So the second thing I want to show you guys that you could use in a survival situation, but is actually a Stone Age skill, is shelter. Like, how did primitive people make shelter? So I'm going to show you what's called a tripod, and then we're going to build kind of a miniature shelter. And we're going to pretend like this knife is our person that's going to sleep in it. Okay, so a tripod, tri means 3. You knew that? Okay, good. And then I'm going to take this and make my tripod like that. Okay, so now I've got a tripod. Now, that's where I'm going to sleep. All right, so let's imagine that's where I'm going to sleep. So now what I've got to do, now if you were doing this in a survival situation, you would have to get much bigger sticks, right?
Yeah, you'd have to box.
Quite a bit bigger. And it would take probably a couple hours at least. But this is something you could do if you didn't have a tarp, or if you didn't have a tent, or anything like that, and there wasn't a cave and you needed a shelter. This is something that you could do. It's the same thing that your great grandparents did in the Stone Age to make their shelters. Only they make it much bigger so the whole family could be in it, and they didn't do it for survival. They did it because that's how they lived. So then what you do is you kind of create a skeleton, like a rib cage, along the side, like this. You start getting a bunch of sticks, like as many sticks as you can. You start laying them against the side, and you would lay them on both sides, okay? I'm not gonna build the whole thing because I wanna go and show you some other things. But you would keep on laying these in, putting more and more along the side, nice and close together, all right? So if I put them pretty close together, do you think that they will block out the rain? Like if I have them there, do you think that'll block the rain out?
Yeah, if there was bigger.
Do you guys really think this will block the rain?
No.
So this probably won't block the rain. So I'm going to show you guys how you can block the rain a couple ways. So if you had some bark, some tree bark, you've got something, you can lay that against your rib cage like this and start putting your tree bark on there, kind of like shingles, like for a house, right? Or you could take, instead of the tree bark, you could take some leaves, or I have pine needles. So I would gather a whole bunch of pine needles, like 10 garbage bags full. And I put them here, at first here, and then I take more, and I put some more like on top of that, and then I take some more and put them on top of that until when I was inside the shelter, I couldn't see any light at all. And once I couldn't see any light from inside here, I would maybe be kind of confident that I wouldn't get rained on too hard. If the rain came, I'd be protected. Now, what's the other good thing about having this stuff on here? What else would that do for you? Yeah.
Predators can't see.
Yeah, so you'd be kind of hidden. Anything else? So it'd keep the rain off you. It would keep you from being seen by predators. What else?
Warm.
And it would keep you warm. This is like insulation. Like in your house, in the walls, there's insulation. So this is like insulation too. Now I would build my rib cage on this side and do it on this side.
Smoking.
Oh yeah, it is. Thank you. Yeah, it's hard to keep this from. It just wants to keep going, even a little bit of oxygen. So I'll put the other side, the rib cage on the other side, and then build it up. Now, if a big windstorm came, what do you think would happen right now?
It'd blow away.
It would blow away. So the other thing that I have to do is get more sticks
And make it strong.
and put them on top of the other stuff. Just lay it down on top of the other stuff so that would stay there, like heavy sticks, right? So that wouldn't blow away. And then you'd have a shelter that you could stay in overnight that's built out of all natural materials, and you could stay warm and dry with that. Yeah.
And you could use stone to like leave it down so it doesn't blow away.
Yep, you could potentially use stones to hold it down. Yep, if you found the right kinds of stones, you could try and do that. The sticks are good because they're really long, so you don't have to get a whole bunch of stones and build them up. You can just get a long stick and lay it down on the whole thing, and it'll kind of hold it down, but that's a good idea. Yeah. So that's really quick, fire and shelter, and how Stone Age people dealt with having, their food cooked and warmth and light, and then also staying dry at night. All right. So you guys should keep an eye on that. Make sure it doesn't. Oh, it's already smoking again.
You should take it out and blow on it.
Why would I blow on it? That would make it catch on fire again, I think. All right, so I'm going to show you guys some things, some Stone Age tools. So the Stone Age is named Stone Age because they had stone tools, right? They also had bone tools, and they had tools made out of wood. So why do you think they don't call it the wood age or the bone age? Yeah.
Because there was lots of stone and
Yeah, there's lots of stone. What happens to bone, if it was the Stone Age a long time ago?
yeah,
And what happens to bone and wood over a really long time?
it's wrong.
Yeah, it disappears, right? Kind of degrades. And then even though there was all these wood and bone tools, do you think there's any left now? Not really. So when the archaeologists, that's the scientists that look for old things, when they look, mostly all they find are stones. And sometimes they'll find like an old skeleton, but usually they just find lots of stones. All right? So that's why it's called the Stone Age, because that's what's left. But there's lots of other things in the Stone Age. But I'm going to start with some stone tools, show you guys some things from then. So this here are the two kinds of stones that people used in the Stone Age. The two most common kinds. This is called flint here, and this is called obsidian. You guys might have seen obsidian before. This comes from volcanoes, and it's kind of like glass. And when you break these kinds of stones, they have a super sharp edge on them, and you can use them for knives. These ones are really dull, so I'm going to hand them out, and you can handle them. They shouldn't hurt you. But if you broke them, you could turn them into a really sharp flake for cutting food or for cutting plants or whatever. All right, so you guys can handle those. And then I'm going to show you guys a couple other cool things, tools that they made. So like an arrowhead. So these here are arrowheads that they made for hunting, right? Yeah.
I have an obsidian arrowhead at my
Yeah,
house.
that's awesome.
Yeah, for decoration.
So this is an arrowhead. Right? And then this here, I don't usually pass this one around because people drop it and then it'll kind of break. But this is a spear point. See that? And those are made out of stone. And these here, what do you think someone might have hunted with something like this size? Anyone guess? Would you try and hunt a rabbit with that? Probably a bit big, right?
Yeah. And you could have more meat.
What do you think you might hunt with that size of a... Yeah.
Bear?
Yeah, maybe a bear. Yeah.
Deer?
A deer, yeah. Yeah, good. Good job, guys.
You could throw it that thing. You could just throw it.
Well, you guys want to see? You guys want to see what the first gun was? So I'm going to show you guys was the first gun that people invented. It's not going to look like a gun. So this here. So, like there was the time before fire, right? And it was really hard for people. And then people invented fire, and then they could cook food and get warm and have light, all these things. There was also a time before this was invented. And before that one, you wanted to hunt, if it's going to be winter and you want to have a lot of meat for the winter and all the animals are going to go away, do you want to like try and get 200 rabbits or one buffalo? One buffalo. It's like, I just want to get one thing and not spend weeks looking for rabbits, right? The problem with getting one buffalo, if all you have is a spear to hunt buffalo, you have to go right up to the buffalo, right? Do you think that's dangerous?
Yeah.
Do you think like stab? Yeah. And do you think that buffalo's going to probably run away from you before you get to it?
Yeah.
So it's two things. Like it's really hard to get to the buffalo because it runs away, and then when you get there, it's really dangerous. But for a long time, that's how people hunted animals, and they would get hurt a lot. Sometimes they'd even die, right? And then someone invented this. This is called an atlatl, and this is also known as a spear thrower. And it's the first thing that we ever invented where you could call a projectile weapon. That's what a gun is. It projects bullets. This projects spears. So you put a spear here. You guys ever seen a chuck it for a dog with a tennis ball?
Yeah.
So instead of a tennis ball, you put a spear on here, and you can throw things way faster than you can throw them regular. So now when people hunted buffalo, instead of having to sneak up on them and get really close and then they'd scare away, they could wait in the bushes and just wait there, and the buffalo would come, and they put the spear here, kind of like a bow and arrow. This was before the bow and arrow. Put a spear here, and they'd be in the bushes, and they could be like this. The buffalo would be over there, and they could throw it and then get the buffalo. And then also it was really safe because now they didn't have to go up to the buffalo and risk their life to get their food. So after this was invented, again, like fire, life got very different for people. Just like when we invented the car or when we invented the phone, like life really changed for people. Yeah.
Do you know it was really rare to live a full life back then?
It was rare to get to adulthood. So people actually, in the Stone Age, a lot of people lived to be 70 years old. But to get to be from childhood up to be like 10 or 12 or, that part was hard. A lot of people died when they were kids. But once you got to be an adult, they actually lived really healthy lives. They ate really healthy food. They didn't eat sugar. They didn't eat all the processed food. They didn't get things like cancer and diabetes. And they actually, unless they got killed by something, they would live actually a really long time. But yeah, sometimes they would get killed, and it was be pretty rough. Yeah. Where I made this, and I made a lot of stuff, and then some of it I've gotten from other people, but mostly I made it. I've just always been interested in Stone Age skills and Stone Age people. Yeah, and you can, if you're interested, you can learn a lot about, like, you can go on YouTube. There's lots of really cool videos about the Stone Age and what happened and where we came from. There used to be like about 80,000 years ago, there was about 6 different species of people on Earth. There's like lions and tigers and leopards and cougars and all these different big cats, all these different kinds of big cats. Well, there used to be a whole bunch of different kinds of humans. We're the only ones left now. You guys ever heard of Neanderthals? They were one really famous type of people that lived at the same time as us, but they're not around anymore. And from a distance, it would look like one of us. From ways away, it would look kind of like one of us. So that's stones. I didn't show you a stone knife. How much time do we got? Do you know what time it is?
It's 52 hours. I don't know how.
52 hours. 3:30 to 4, yeah.
Yeah, so you got about 8 minutes.
Oh, okay, we're going pretty good. So this here is a stone knife. I showed you guys stone knives like this. So someone would have, a long time ago, they would have made a knife out of this and then cut with just held onto the rock like this. And that's a little bit dangerous because then you could cut your hand. And it's also like a little bit hard to put a lot of pressure. So you put a lot of pressure, it's dangerous, it's also just hard. And then someone invented something that's really boring that you guys won't think of as an invention even, but it's a really, really important invention. They invented the handle. So someone had discovered that, like, if you put a handle, like this is a big handle for a spear. This is a handle for a knife, and once you put a handle on it, then you've got a knife that works better because now your hand is safe, and you can cut a lot harder and put a lot more pressure on, and your hand is safe. So when people invented the handle and learned how to put things on handles, life got a lot easier and a lot safer. So they could use those to separate themselves from dangerous things like fire and from blades and things like that. So other things from the Stone Age that are really critical here, we use like things to hold things together, like ropes and shoelaces, and they had to have things hold things together too. So they made rope out of plant material. So this is a piece of bark from a tree. That's off of a maple tree. And they would take this and they would shred it into like fine pieces like this, kind of in their hands. And then they would weave this together into rope. And that's how they would make their ropes for the things they would use, like bowstrings for a hunting bow, for hunting their food. And then, what else we got? So these are all deer skins. This is made out of a deer skin. This is a vest made out of deer skin. This is what people wore for clothing for 250,000 years. This kind of clothing I'm wearing here, this is probably like, this kind of clothing is only about 60 or 70 years old. Like what it takes to make this has some like petroleum products in it. This is probably about 70 years old. It was invented maybe 70 or 80 years ago. This was invented like 150,000 years ago, and it's been what we've used most of the time. No one uses it anymore, but But until about 100 years ago, 200 years ago, this was commonly used. Yeah.
And some of our shirts are made out of sheep.
Some of you are. Yeah, do you guys want to pass it on? So that's made out of deer skin. Anything? Yeah.
Where on the where the the Earth is different now than it was then. Where the Stone Age? Where was that at on the Earth?
Well, the Earth.
Oh, these buttons are...
We haven't been around that long. The continents have changed since humans have been around. So the continents have pretty much been the same since we've been around. We've been around for about 250,000 years, Homo sapiens.
Right.
And probably about 100,000 years ago, we left Africa. And then we've been in, depending on who you ask, we've been in South America and North America for at least 15,000 years, but some people say 35,000 years. We've been in Australia for about 40 or 50,000 years. And then in Asia and Europe, probably for 70 to 100,000 years.
So they could have lived where we live now.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, what's your question?
A long time ago, all the continents were together.
A long time ago, yeah, it's called Pangea, was the name of the big continent.
Yeah, because you...
So I'm going to show you guys how they talk to each other. This is kind of what they use for phones.
What?
This is a conch shell. And if they wanted to alert each other from a distance, like that they needed to, they were lost, and so, hey, can you come find me? Or we have visitors at the camp, will you come to us? Then this is how they could like make a loud noise over a distance.
Or if you could get hurt.
Listen to this, you guys.
So that's a primitive way, kind of like a phone that they had. So last thing I'm going to show you guys, I think we're running out of time. This is kind of a trivia test. Or not a trivia test, it's just trivia. Trivia is a test, same thing. So you guys have to turn around, face the other way. Don't look, do not look.
Look at me.
If you look, I won't let you play the game. I'm looking at all the back of your heads right now, so if you turn around, you're going to see me looking at you, and I'm going to know who looked. All right, go ahead and turn around. Who knows what this is? Who knows what this is?
Like from a goat? Wait.
Close.
Wait.
It lives in Oregon, in eastern Oregon, in the desert.
An elk?
It's not an elk. Closer to a goat.
Deer?
No. Yeah.
A buffalo?
No. Last guess.
Mountain goat?
It's a mountain sheep, so this is a bighorn sheep. So really close, almost like a goat. This bighorn sheep is called a ram. So the boys were called rams. Boys
Like
are
the
called
cars.
rams.
Like the cars, ram.
Yeah, the girls, you know what the girl sheep are called?
What?
They're called ewes.
All
right.
You?
So that's the first thing. So then,
I
what do
see
you
its
guys?
teeth.
What do you guys think this is?
Beaver.
Yeah, that's a beaver. Yeah,
I've seen its
good
teeth.
guess. Good guess. What do you guys think this is? It's about this tall.
A wolf.
Close. It's not a wolf.
A
Lives in
dog.
Oregon.
Baby
It's not
wolf?
a dog.
Baby wolf? A baby
Yeah.
wolf? Fox.
Close. You got wolf, dog, fox. What's left?
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah.
Raccoon.
No, wolf, dog, fox. What's the other kind of thing that's like that?
Raccoon's that.
Starts with a C.
Coyote.
Coyote. This is a coyote.
Coyote.
Yeah, can you see the big teeth?
Oh yeah, like Roadrunner Coyote.
And then, how much time do we have left? 1 minute. Okay. So, what do you guys think this is? It's about this tall. If it's walking around.
Dinosaur?
No,
Oh,
it lives in
dinosaur.
Oregon.
Right.
Be about this tall, something like this.
Jump.
Do you think it eats? Does it eat meat or does it eat plants? Look at its teeth.
Plants.
It eats plants. It's about this tall.
Deer.
It's a deer. Yeah, good. Good job.
Them in our town.
Yeah,
Okay,
I saw
last
that.
one. This is the last one. This lives in Oregon. It's about this big. This one would be about this big.
This
That
is
tall.
it.
What do you guys think this is? What?
It would be easier with its eyes.
What? I didn't hear what you said.
I said
What? Anyone have any ideas what this is?
It has sharp teeth.
It has sharp teeth. This would be kind of scary if you saw it in the woods.
Oh,
Any ideas? Yeah.
maybe a fox?
No, it's too big to be a fox. Yeah.
Bear?
It's a bear. This is a bear. You see this big fin on top of its head? So that fin of bone, that's there so its jaw muscles can attach to, because they have to have very strong jaw muscles to kill things with their mouth and eat things with and eat raw food. And so because we don't have like really strong jaws, we don't really have to have a big bone to attach our jaw muscle to, but they have a giant one. And what do you think's back here? See that hole? What do you think that hole in the back of the head is for? Yeah.
Throat?
What?
Throat?
No. Close. Good guess.
Oh.
This is for their spinal cord, comes out to their backbone. Their brain is in here, and then their spinal cord comes out to their backbone. So I think you guys were done. So thanks so much.
What do you guys say?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. That
Good
was
job
great.
paying attention, guys. All right, have fun.
We'll bring the next group out.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.